Hi, everybody. Welcome to Chasing Banners, the official podcast of the Southern Connecticut Conference. I'm Al Carbone. Happy to be the host. We've made it to episode 3. We're like a Star Wars trilogy now. John Steady, Matt Conyers. Welcome back, guys. I can't believe it's already November. The fall has flown by. Lots to talk about. Let's go get it.
Absolutely. It's been a fun time of year. We're already through the SECs. States are over, and football's the only thing left.
We made it to 3 episodes. I think we've already proven some people wrong now.
I tend to agree with that.
Even ourselves, possibly.
Ourselves. You know, kind of prima donnas now, you know, but got some good feedback for the first 2 months. But yeah, again, it's November. We had a great SEC championship season, playoff champions. We had great weather, which is always, a concern. And then, from the league champions, who have been crowned, we go to state champions. And so to date, we have 7 teams that have won state titles in the fall. Cross country, we had 4 state champions. And Matt, you're, intricately involved with the Mercy program that went on, had a great finish at the state open. And then the New England's representing, our league very well. So congratulations to that. Luke Cushing from Amity Regional was our SEC champion, went on to had a great finish and made all New England. But I think the biggest story was probably this last weekend where we had 3 girls soccer teams make it to the state finals. Never happened before.
The most important thing about that is not one of them made it to the SEC championship game. So it begs the question, is it harder to win an SEC championship game than a state championship?
The thing I love, John, and it's a good point. We talk about that often. I can speak for some of the track coaches that say, when we come out of the conference and win a track championship, man, that gives you such a strong boost. And often it is harder. We feel a great level of pride when we win that SEC championship at track. What I really appreciated this year, and just focusing on girls soccer, like you said, 3 teams that weren't in the finals picture, regroup, take that extra practice time, and make some history, like the Foreign program. North Haven making a run. We kind of had our eyes on North Haven. We mentioned them in the last podcast. We didn't mention Foreign. And for Foreign to regroup, that's a period of time when you lose in your conference tournament, or for some teams maybe not make it, and how you bounce back. So really a credit to those athletes on Foreign, credit to the coaching staff to be back. And I really was impressed with Amity coming back, going all the way to the final. And for the second year in a row, we have a representative in that big game, the most important game in girls soccer, obviously, Class LL. Obviously losing to Greenwich, but Amity, a tremendous run.
Yeah, and Amity, beat 3 FCIAC teams, so you can call them the FCIAC runner-up, just a little shade at the other conferences. But I think going back to the Foreign one, which was really interesting because they were the 5 seed in the tournament. They played North Haven. They had lost to North Haven twice during the regular season, then beat them in the SEC tournaments, then made the semifinals. They lost to Mercy, who ended up winning the league. So that was interesting. And then, as you say, you regroup, you get to go. And that's what's great about our league. You get teams in every division. So now you're going to be representative and have a chance, as the aforementioned, example of the track. You win state championships in these different divisions. I think it's great. Obviously, unfortunately, boys soccer, we didn't have anyone past the quarterfinals. Girls volleyball, we didn't have anyone past the semifinals. So, you look at that. Girls swimming, we had Shan was a runner-up in Class S, I believe, and I know Cheshire came in 3rd in the state open. So, a lot of great individual performances in that. So, but then we still have football left.
Football is the conference looks very strong right now. If you're an NFL team, I'm a Chicago Bears fan. We have not had a lot of success lately, but if my team's still in it at Christmas, I'm happy. Right. That last week of the NFL season. Right now, we are in the last week of SEC football, and we have 12 teams still hunting for a playoff spot. 6 who I think are in by my elementary math of the playoff points, and 6 who are still mathematically alive. Could have 12 SEC teams in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, so a little history about the 6 divisions. And there are media folks and high school football experts who say it's watered down with 6 divisions in such a small state. But again, I think what the point being is you only play 10 football games, right? And it's not a Thanksgiving Day argument. So here's it is. Check it off to our fans that we've mentioned Thanksgiving Day football. But and we always talk about teams that you get to week 4 or 5 and there's no hope left. And kids quit, they don't want to do, the coaches you're talking about playing into the 9th week, the 10th week, the 11th week, and you're playing that final game with a chance to do something. And what's great, and for our pundits out there who are doing the math, and you get points for who you play and all this stuff, it's kind of exciting just for the fact of, yes, we had 10 playoff teams 2 years ago. Last year we had 7, right? You can probably break that. And to me, that's a credit to, what we've tried to do scheduling wise and what we just tried to do with the sport of just giving teams a chance to, get to that end of the season with something to play for.
Almost every Thanksgiving game has some sort of implication or a team that's still alive. I mean, even Brantford East Haven. Brantford is mathematically still alive for a playoff spot. So that game still has implications. We know that the Cheshire game, they're a playoff team. Almost every game that we're looking at Thanksgiving has some sort of implications. You can't ask for anything more than that.
We talk a lot about history. I love that if you were following along to the pundits, like you said, in August or early September, this was, by everything we were hearing, outside of the league, going to be one of the league's worst years when it came to football. There was a lot of language that came around, but I do think, to steal term, it is a meat grinder of a league where you are going to get better as the season goes along. That's a credit to a lot of our coaches and a lot of the programs that are in this league, and how much momentum is built through that schedule that you talk about. I think the schedule does a great job of building momentum for our football teams, and I'm just really excited to see a year that was almost cast off in the beginning. Now you're talking about matching last year, and as a commish, you have to be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, and I think you look at it. Polls are meaningless until the end of the season, and teams make the playoffs. But it's the hope. It's what educational-based athletics is about. You play there. You play your sport. You put your time in. You work 12 months, and all these coaches. I was on a podcast, for this in the CIAC podcast, talking about the Alliance, right, with Jimmy Bonacore from the ECC, and so Jimmy gets his first mentioned on the Chasing Banners, but and we talked about this, all these sports, soccer included, you're working out 12 months a year. There's no 3-month seasons anymore. And that's what's kind of evolved with high school athletics, with the stuff that goes outside. Kids are making a choice. They're playing for their schools. They're getting the recognition. Now it's the time to go play for championships, chasing banners, like we say we're here for. And that's what's, high school sports is all about, playing for your community. So it should be an exciting couple weeks. And and again, you go back and say, which game are you going to? Like on Thanksgiving, or really Tuesday, starting on Tuesday with Prep and Xavier, and Daniel Hand and Guilford, 2 teams probably going to the playoffs. Guilford, one of their best years.
I think Hand and Guilford are already locked into the playoffs.
Right, yeah,
and
probably locked in.
That's going to be a very good game.
Right, but even North Haven, West Haven, 2 teams that are kind of on the periphery. You win, you get some points of who you've played. Notre Dame, Hamden, same thing, and so. And then there's the Battle of Wallingford, Shannon and Lyman Hall, who
both could make the playoffs.
Both are going to probably make it.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about, and so here's like a little trivia contest besides the real trivia contest that we're going to have. Here is, when was the last time that the 2 Wallingford schools both went to the state playoffs?
I know the answer to this, but I know it's pre-SEC.
Pre-SEC, right? Matt, were you born in 1985?
I was going to say the year I was born, but it happened. I was alive.
Yeah.
I just barely, but yeah.
1985. They both won state championships, and that was when the only 2 teams made it into the championship. That was it. There was no semifinals and stuff like that. So things have evolved over the years. So it's exciting for Wallingford, for Lyman Hall and Shan to play that game. But again, it's just. It's exciting time of the year, and guess what? Then winter sports starts, and so no rest for the weary, but it's exciting. So congratulations to those teams, the fall teams. You're starting with Fairfield Prep golf. Like, we don't really have golf. They're the only team that plays in the fall. They won the Division I title, and then Robbie Rosati from Fairfield Prep won the New England's tournament. So it's always nice to recognize all our member schools, and we
fun
talked stuff.
Not the step on you there, Al. I just want to one last mention. We talk about the girls soccer teams that weren't in the final. Daniel Hand cross country on the girls side was 3rd at our championship. They won a Class M title. Vleeks, we expressed a lot of excitement around her coming back, and just a great ambassador. Once again, led that team to a state title. So I think that's another wonderful ambassador of our league that has that storybook ending.
Yeah, and another sport that we did win a state championship was field hockey, and Brantford, who won the SEC's Pete Fry, right, the head coach, with his crazy shoes, what do you have, Batman shoes on this year, right? So Pete, if you're listening, we always appreciate I think I posted the Instagram to my story about the picture of his shoes. But great, a final against Cheshire, 1-0, and they went through Class M. We almost had a Brantford-Guilford rematch.
Very close.
Overtime lost to New Milford, but congrats to Brantford for winning that state title.
A very interesting fact that Brantford's had a lot of success in field hockey, but this year they won the SEC tournament, went on to win a state championship. That's the first time Brantford's ever done that. It's happened 8 other times in the league. Hand and Guilford both have done it 3 times, won the SEC tournament and gone on. In 15 years, I think we've only had the tournament. Hand and Guilford have gone on 3 times to win it, Cheshire once, and then this was the first time for Brantford. So the field hockey teams that win the SEC tournament are definitely tournament ready.
Yeah, and I think that's important too to know, like when we talk about our league, is why league playoffs mean something, our league championships. Like we're trying to crown a champion, and as we just said, it's probably harder to win a league championship than it is to win a state championship, and that's not anything faulty towards the state classifications. It's just that the way our league is, and it's competitive, but it's that chance, and so. That's a really interesting type because I think field hockey was the one sport we've won a lot of state championships. We won probably 18 in that time, of the league. But we only started our playoffs in 2010, and that was a long time effort. There were some coaches who didn't want that, and we're going to play somebody 3 or 4 times. And I used to always say but if you're playing someone 3 or 4 times in a year, that means you've gone pretty far, right? Playing for a championship, playing for a league championship, and I hear that from a lot of people as we promote our league very well, and we're going to continue to promote our league. So it's important that, that league championship becomes a valuable part of what the coaches and players are looking forward to.
One more field hockey mention. I don't know about you. I was watching Class S in field hockey because Sheehan had a couple wins there. I was looking at that field hockey bracket. It's been a long time. I don't know if we've ever had a Class S team make the state championship in field hockey.
Actually, I think it was Sacred Heart or Daniel Hand a couple years ago. They've been in class. Yeah. Okay. So,
but I was watching them. Yeah. They had a little start to that run, and then it ran out of gas.
So Matt, all in all, a great fall, and what do we have to look forward to? What are we looking forward to now?
Well, obviously we got Thanksgiving coming up, and we're John's photos of his Thanksgiving meal that we have to get in the group chat. But I can't be more pumped about what is coming in the winter and what where we left off last winter and what we come back to. I am a track coach, a cross country coach, but I love the basketball in our league, and that's something that I'm going to be really looking forward to. When we come back in December, we're going to get to preview a little of that. So
yeah, and we're coming off probably the greatest season in terms of state championships. We had 31 state championships as a league last year, which is the record in our 31 years. But in that winter season, we had 14 state championships.
It's just
so you're talking about basketball, you're talking about ice hockey, you're talking about track, boys and girls, you're talking about gymnastics, wrestling,
where we
swimming, boys swimming, so.
Absolutely.
We talk a lot about Mount Rushmore, and we're watching probably the Mount Rushmore of programs from the wrestling side in the SEC with what Xavier and Mike Cunningham are doing. So I'm very curious to see how that continues to evolve. Like, I'm always been a fan of, like, when Tiger Woods is in his peak, I like rooting against him, but man, do I like watching him. And it's the same thing in baseball right now, right, with the Dodgers. I don't want to root for the Dodgers, but they're in it. It makes it better. And I think, what Cunningham has done at Xavier has made it better for the rest of the state and make it really interesting to watch.
All right, so let's go back to the fall. Like we talked, you used the term Mount Rushmore, and we've said, in these episodes, we're going to talk about the best of the league, and we just kind of went through very quickly with our fall and had some good conversation. Who is the best of the best? Like, so if you ask me, right, I'm the commissioner. I've been the commissioner 22 years, and I write the history. I love our history of our league. I write it here, and this is stuff that I'm proud of, and it's on our website. But we've had a lot of great athletes, student athletes that have come through our league. So, like, if we look at in the fall, and we could start with, just in the last decade, and so this is what we want the viewers, who we missing, like, right? Who are the people that we forgot about? And it's not that we forgot. It's just the point is, though, it's like as the league grows older, the achievements get even better and better. And and I'll start with like boys soccer, and you look at like in the last decade, you had Daniel Hand, who won 4 straight state titles. Scott Testori was league player of the year 3 times. Went to go play at UConn. That's just boys soccer, right? Girls soccer, Audrey Marin from, Amity won our player of the year 4 times. 4 times she went to playing at Dartmouth. Like who else? And think about the sports that, in the fall and the great athletes that we've seen.
It's interesting. We were talking just earlier about football, and we know we have 7 players from the SEC that have played in the NFL. And then you brought up a name that totally, Nico Reganey, who absolutely dominated conversations while he was playing. Didn't play in the NFL, but dominated conversations while he was playing in the SEC. Definitely one of the greatest players in the last 10 years playing football, without a doubt.
And it's funny because you look at it now and you see, a couple weeks ago, I happened to be at the UConn Boston College game. John Nider, who was our league player of the year from John Law, scoring a touchdown from his receiver position. And then, later that night, I'm watching Notre Dame play, I think it was USC, and Matt Jeffrey, who is probably arguably the number 1 lacrosse recruit and led Cheshire in lacrosse, playing offensive plays as a walk-on for the Notre Dame football team. So I was like, tweeting that, saying what other 2 leagues had 2 kids playing, major college football, in the same day. So it's funny how you say who's the best, who were the best, and we'll have a trivia question at thing. But you look back, and whether it's Harold Cooper at Hill House, who went on to URI, Zach Davis, who was 500 yards a game at Shan, who went on to Fordham, Irvin Phillips, who played at Syracuse and played in professionally for a couple of years. That's just football, and so even other sports. I'm just talking about the last 10 to 15 years in people's minds. Michelle Federico from Cheshire led them to the first couple league championships. Awesome player. Awesome, probably one of the most dominant players. I remember that. Or, you're talking about Maddie Ekby, who's probably one of our greatest athletes in the SEC history.
Still playing in
Still
college.
playing lacrosse
Just
now.
transferred to Northwestern this year.
And now we'll get to the, girls swimming. And then we'll get to the running events. Girls swimming, you're talking about Olympian trials, Dana Grindal from Amity, Dana Chung from, I think it was Amity, Kristen Frost from Han, who went on,
Kristen Frost, I still say this all the time. You go to the SEC championship and you look up and she already holds records at the Southern Pool.
Right.
While we're swimming at the SEC championship meet. Yeah. She was an amazing swimmer to watch.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that I'm not even going the full 32 years. And you think about girls soccer, Tiffany Weimer from North Haven, 4-time All SEC, went to Penn State, All-American at Penn State, and then goes and plays professionally, and she's still, working in the soccer world.
Active now, giving back to the sport. That's the other thing. It's we talk about I'm a former sports writer, so I'm always looking at themes. Baptism by fire, it makes you better, but not just for our state championships, but so many of these athletes go on and to have success later in college. I'm going to think about the runners, obviously.
Right.
You talk about someone like a name that might not go right to the top, but Mackenzie Pius from Mercy back in the day goes on to UConn, has success. Every one of these really champions that win once or twice, they are typically going to have success at the next level, and it's that baptism by fire.
And let's just keep with the runners, with cross country. You talk about 2-time champions, 3-time champions with Sarah Cotton from Daniel Hand. We mentioned her in a previous episode. On the girl side, you're talking about Meredith Bloss from Guilford, who won a couple times, right? Annecy Leaks from this year, a 2-time winner. So you're talking to some of the young runners at Mercy, right, who are going to have a chance to be successful. On the boys' side, right? I looked at their history. Dan Wilson, 1997, Notre Dame of West Haven. I think he went on to run at UConn. He won every race in 1997. Every race. I think he lost was in the New Englands. Every race he ran, he won. You go even further.
We have a 3-time champion too in the SEC. I know you were going to get to him, but yeah.
But Drew Thompson from Fairfield Prep, who followed a success of very successful runners at Prep. Kristen Alvarado. You're talking about guys, Division I runners. Drew Thompson, 3-time winner, goes to Dartmouth, right? Or that winner, his senior year, 8th in it was still the Foot Locker National Championship race. I remember watching it on TV, him getting announced, running the race and coming in top 10. That's great for our league. And that was a great year. That was at 2017, I believe, right? That was the first time I think Xavier won the Northeast regions.
Correct.
Talking
and
about
that was
moments.
only Xavier now has, back then, how many titles have they won? They now won 10 in a row.
Right. Right.
Just wild. And speaking of Xavier athletes, he's on my mind. Robbie Cozine,
Yep.
a name that we followed, won a
Went to
national
Notre Dame.
championship later in track, went to Notre Dame, just ran a 2:17 marathon. Just ran his first marathon in Indianapolis. He's going to be a guy that we can put on that list. He's going to be a Olympic
I saw him
track
running the
qualifier.
New Haven Road Race back on Labor Day. I saw his name there, so it was pretty cool.
Yes, yeah, always does it. Always
under
does
an
it.
hour too, I think, for that. They probably did the half, but yeah. So like, what a great league in the stuff you're proud of it, and and it will just tie with like girls volleyball, which is the ultimate team sport. Girls volleyball. You talk about dominating players and dominating teams over the time that we've had some undefeated teams and state champions, whether it's Emma Appleman, who whose mom coached at at Yale, I believe. Yeah, Yale, and her dad was a tennis coach too, and good guy, always helped us get Yale for our tennis championships. But Emma had there was a run with Guilford was really good. The Cheshire teams have always been historically good. Amity, who won it this year and for the second year in a row, with Coach Davis and Coach Pavone, Cheshire having an undefeated year. And then we were just kind of reminiscing. It was Shan was the first back in 2000 was the first SEC team to go undefeated, and so they won the the SECs and then the Class M's and finished 25-0. So it's kind of a unique thing that there's a lot of great athletes and great teams that have come through this league.
A quick little anecdote, like we end on volleyball. We hadn't really mentioned it, but 10, 12 years ago, I remember getting assigned to go to a volleyball match in the SEC, and I didn't cover it at all. But I was just amazed at the level of pace and speed. And I know the game has changed a lot and the league has changed, but just like that's our last mention. And those players in that 5-10 year window were amazing volleyball players in this league. That was a golden era back. I'm thinking like 2010, 2015 around. Yeah.
Volleyball played at its highest level when you go to an SEC championship game is a great sport to watch. At its highest level, it's a great spectator sport.
Yeah, and I think what's really great too is having these championships, right? Having these league tournaments where you bring these teams in, and whether you play in the Oronoque division or the Quinnipiac division, the divisions don't matter. The divisions don't matter. They don't. It's about coming and winning a league championship and where you come in. And we go back to the girls soccer example where 3 of those best soccer teams were in one division, just the way we ranked the teams, and they all came out to do very well in the States. And so it's like your league schedule prepares you. And again, as a league, we also try to play outside, whether we have those matchups versus the FCIAC or the ECC and other sports or the SWC in doing that to give competitive schedules. So lots of exciting stuff. It's been a great fall. Appreciate everybody. Congratulations to our champions that we've have earned the titles. We're approaching 600 state titles, right? We're at 597 right now. Hopefully we get a couple more this fall and we'll eclipse that back in the winter. So, okay, so let's have some fun, right? So we got 2 trivia questions, right? So Doug, can you put up the slides, right? So we mentioned this before. So this will be so here's our Chasing Banners trivia. So hopefully that you're following us on YouTube and our link, and then when we post some stuff to Instagram, that somebody comes back and gets the first answer, and we'll send you some SEC gear, a nice T-shirt or hat or something like that special to respond. So making you pay attention as we've gone here past 20 minutes. So our first trivia. So John, you're gonna tee this one up.
How many former SEC student athletes have played in the National Football League?
Okay.
So we think we know the answer, but somebody could prove us wrong.
Right, yeah.
You
So
might
that's-
get some extra swag if you prove us wrong.
Yes, exactly. So we have a number, and then you could list those names, but you'll be, I think, pretty interested with some of the stories behind them with that. And then let's talk about trivia question number 2. We talked about our SEC championship. So Doug, roll it in, right? So what member schools won the most SEC League playoff titles? Extra credit for the person that could total. And if you want to get into boys and girls, because we do have some, boys and girls schools that, that's so extra credit, we'll send you some gear. So, again, we've, it's 32 years and it's been a pretty good run. So, so closing it out, final thoughts.
Where are we going on Thanksgiving? Wednesday night, I'll be at Guilford Hand. I ran into Scott Benoit today. Told me the last time Guilford won, he was the coach, 2006.
Yes. Really, 2006.
Been a while.
Yes.
So, but they're both playoff locks.
Yeah.
Should be a great crowd. Surf Club.
Yeah.
Could be an SEC championship on the line.
Could be. Yep. Yep. As we tally those all up, and we'll have that thing.
So I'll be at the Surf Club. Looking forward to that.
Yep.
Are we even allowed to go to Thanksgiving football games on this podcast? John, we're going to have a new guest host next week.
I have someone
Quiet
sitting in
down.
your seat.
Yeah.
Love Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you've never been vocal about your opinions on it.
Again, it was funny today. And there was some Pete Pabwaga, who's a fan of the show, Chasing Banners. He gave us some good feedback, and so we're going to give him a shout out. But he talked about some of his ways of improving the sport of football. But it's all fun. But again, I think that's important that we're as you said, the most important thing about this is week 12. These student athletes who've played for their teams get the chance to play a meaningful game. It's part of the schedule, and that's what it is. It's part of the schedule. It's a part of the regular season schedule, and you get you to those bonus points, and so fun. So, but Matt, what are you doing? Are you running a race? What are you doing?
I got to go to the Manchester Road.
Manchester Road Race.
Not to throw it a little un-SEC territory, but
Yeah.
over 30 years running the Manchester Road Race, so that will be where I will be next Thursday.
Is it really
running is a loose term these days?
Is it really one big loop?
It is a loop. It is a loop, and it's a distance that you never ever get.
4 miles.
Just shy of 5, but yeah.
Oh, just shy of 5. Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna hold my Thanksgiving, because it's 3 days of Thanksgiving if you really think about
Absolutely.
it. So we have games Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So we'll be making the trek around the league, and then look forward to the playoffs, and winter sports will be here before you know it. And it should, as Matt said before, it should be a pretty good winter, and exciting one. It's a long one too, and but exciting with the teams and what we did last year. So you really
A lot of
looking forward to
excitement
it.
for the winter.
So all right. Well, again, I appreciate it. We appreciate your viewership. We have 2 trivia questions. Hopefully, we get some great response. We'll get you some cool SEC gear for it. But again, thank you everyone for watching Chasing Banners. Happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, and keep chasing. Thanks a lot, everybody.